Welcome to Ihs Tv. I'm Amy Schmois.
And I'm Matthew Lynn. We have a great show for you today, so let's get started.
Last show, we looked into the lives of the students in the digital media class. Today, we'll be exploring what inspires our colleagues, from police officers to our very own beautiful town of Ithaca.
First up, we go into the wild with a piece on the great outdoors by Jacob Marquardt.
The wild? No way!
Let's take a look.
The modern world is a monument to industrial progress, an interconnected system where we have control of nearly every aspect of our lives. We drive our cars, sit in our cubicles, and withdraw to our climate-controlled castles every night. Technological progress is racing like a runaway train towards a future where we exist entirely independently of our environment. And yet, with all our comforts, all the convenience that technology grants us, we still aren't happy. Depression and suicide rates are on the rise, and stress levels are at an all-time high, along with the health problems it causes, from heart disease to diabetes. Maybe what we need is less rather than more. There is something about the open air, the wind filling your lungs, and the smell of leaves that stimulates a sense of peace and contentedness. Ithaca is a wonderful place to appreciate the natural world. Located at the base of the scenic Cayuga Lake, Ithaca is a quaint city where nature spills into the civilized world. Standing downtown, you are flanked by the rolling hills of upstate New York, which explode into splashes of vibrant color during the months of autumn. Thanks to the migration of ancient glaciers, Ithaca has a unique geography, with a spider web of deep gorges pouring into the heart of the city. There are so many natural areas to explore, from state parks to your backyard. In a town so full of beautiful geographic features, I figured there would be others that are just as inspired as I am. That's why I visited some of Ithaca's natural areas to ask some simple questions of my fellow nature enthusiasts.
My son is visiting Cornell, so we came for a little walkabout.
I went for a run, and then I was like, hey, there's some beautiful nature out here, so I wanted to just check it out.
I'm taking some pictures for my AP art class. It's like kind of open-ended, so I was getting pictures of water.
Why are we here? We went for a walk today because we wanted to get outside, see the woods. Kristen is visiting and she wanted to see some gorges.
We are just enjoying the nice fall leaves and a nice hike on a Sunday. It's 6 Mile Creek.
It's absolutely beautiful, and it's wonderful to be here in the fall to see the leaves. Even though it's sort of past prime, I can still see a lot of the pretty leaves, and even though it's not a particularly lovely day, it's just still wonderful to be outside and listen to the water and see the wildlife.
It's really good. I mean, I used to live in Ohio, and like this makes Ohio look like so bland. Like there's so many hills here, and all these waterfalls and such.
I like the leaves. I like the changes of seasons. I like the rolling hills, and then the water.
I love the sounds. That's always the first thing that I relate to, is like crunching leaves or like the wind, because those are things that I don't realize when I'm inside because it's so quiet.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think there's something very good for the soul about being outside.
Definitely. It's really good for photography. I mean, there's so much, it's so diverse, you know.
I love to be outside. I like playing outside and playing sports.
I think that it's healthy to be outside, healthy for your body, but also your mind too.
I think nature gives us opportunity to be contemplative, and I think that with as much busyness as we have in our lives now, it's really important to take that time to kind of draw into yourself and your thoughts and connect to something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, I think being connected to nature and being outside is important for your mental health and for your physical health as well.
Definitely, yeah. It's like, I don't know, just being indoors all day is kind of bad, I think, you know.
Absolutely. I think it's good mentally, physically, and emotionally. So.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I was reading the book recently, Last Child in the Woods, and it's talking about nature deficit disorder, looking at how is the human affected by the lack of nature in their life. And it just points back to again and again that it's good for psychological health, it's good for emotional health.
Yeah, it's great. My favorite thing to do is like wander in the woods and kind of get lost a little bit and just be in a totally different space mentally and physically, to be able to just like get outside and walk around or play.
Yeah, and I think it's something that's natural for humanity. It's something that's historically natural. It's where we come from. It's our natural habitat rather than being indoors and in cities all the time. So it's good to sort of detox from life by being outside.
These people all draw inspiration from the outdoors, just like I do. There is something powerful and human that exists in nature, and it takes us back to a simpler time when we were free from our petty struggles. When we step outside, we become part of something bigger than ourselves, and that is truly inspiring.
Wow, I didn't know there was so much to do outside.
Yeah, I really should get out more. I could be one of those people who gets interviewed by Jacob.
Let's hear some more about the great locations Ithaca has to offer from our very own Jessie Lou.
Our coordinates are 42.4433 degrees north and 76.5 degrees west. We boast 2 colleges, 1 lake, a few parks, some falls, and some nice people. One of the most vibrant parts of Ithaca is in the heart of its downtown area. There is the Commons, a pedestrian mall that has been under construction for years, to the exasperation of consumers and businesses alike. However, the Commons is still filled to the brim with good food. I love the taco salad at Viva Taqueria and the focaccia at Just a Taste. There's normally a man peddling magic, but he was unusually absent the last time I went. The public library is right on the Commons on Green Street. I've got many fond memories of this place. When each Harry Potter installment would come out, my mom and I would wait outside the doors of the library in the morning so we could get our hands on the first copy. I pretty much grew up within the stacks, so I'm pretty enamored of the place. Even the beep-boop of the crossing signal across Green Street has become sort of charming. Green Street also features my favorite movie theater in town, Cinemapolis. I love the cool popcorn flavors. I like getting my popcorn with the works. There's something almost magical about buying a ticket and taking a seat in that dark theater, in the pleasant and singular company of the story on screen. There's a similar solace to the one gained by reading a good novel, just you, the characters, and the pages. A cursory description of Ithaca's downtown area isn't complete without some mention of the nearby public parks. Anyone can stop by the Ithaca Falls, right next to the high school. It's great to come here right after school with a friend or two, and just marvel at the grandeur of the falls. These falls aren't particularly large, but when you're right there, feeling the slight spray of the water, hearing the falls crash to the rocks, it's pretty spectacular. A mile or so away is Stewart Park. I've heard that back in its prime, the park was a hub of activity. Now it's getting pretty worn out, but you can't beat the views. I'm constantly inspired by my city. It's a funny term, my city. I guess we take possession of things that really aren't ours, like cities, countries, people, places, because they're beautiful and we want to be remembered with them.
Wow, adventure really is out there.
Indeed it is. In fact, we have Jessie with us today in the studio to talk about her piece.
So Jessie, let's start it right off. Out of all 3 locations, Stewart Park, Cinemapolis, and the Falls, which is your favorite and why?
As much as I love the falls and the park, I'd have to say Cinemapolis. I love seeing movies, and Cinemapolis always has some good ones.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Are there any interesting stories about getting all of that footage?
Actually, I took the GoPro out to film, and it was dark at night, and the GoPro blinks like a red light, and it was strapped to my chest, and it looked like a ticking bomb.
Well, that's adorable.
Yeah.
But you got out of it alive, so that's all that's
Yeah,
important.
I did. People really were not glad that I was there.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good story. Finally, Jesse, what's next for our viewers? On what are you currently working?
Right now I'm working on a piece with Mr. Carver about the future of economics at the high school. So,
Well, thank you, Jesse, for coming in. It's a pleasure to have you here.
thank you.
Matthew, we talked about location, but what about people living here? I wonder what they do.
Well, I do know that we have the local police force. I would like to know how they get trained.
Well, actually, Zach Dorn did a piece on the local BOCES New York State Police Training class.
I'm sorry, police state?
No, New York State.
Oh, phew. I was a little worried for a second. Well, let's see it.
For the last few years now, I've deeply wanted to be a member of the New York State Police. Ever since I was about 8 years old, I had always said I'd wanted to be a police officer. I have chosen exactly the New York State Police for various reasons. One, being their most professional manner. From day one at the academy, new recruits are taught excellence through knowledge. This is basically their code of honor. My second reason is simply because of the jurisdiction they have. I mean, who wouldn't want to have authority in all of New York State? New York City, Binghamton, Elmira, Auburn, the Adirondacks. Troopers for New York have to go through a very vigorous 6-month academy based in Albany. Here, troopers go through the most intense training. Now we'll show you how awesome the state police really are.
Look to your left.
State police recruits spend 26 weeks training at the academy before becoming troopers. We spent one eye-opening day. The recruits are pushed physically, although already more conditioned than most of us.
In my opinion, discipline is one of the strongest character traits of a successful police officer.
A lot's at stake here to prepare them for the stakes when out in uniform. The position of trooper, a coveted one. Only 1 in every 25 applicants will be selected and successfully complete the academy. With opportunity comes risk. They are trained in what they call defensive tactics. On this day, recruits learn to drop someone by a pressure point on their wrist. Most of the training does not put the recruits as the aggressor. The drills simulate an officer under fire. Recruits are pepper sprayed, knocked out, and thrown around in an effort to ingrain in their brains something life-saving. They are targets. They must learn when attacked they can and must get up. In Albany, Kelly Morris, News Channel 5.
Me, currently taking criminal justice at TST BOCES, is preparing me for my future into law enforcement, more specifically, the New York State Police. My teacher, Mr. Laparco, is a Vietnam veteran and was in the Cortland Police Department for 20-something years. Being taught by someone who has had the experience in the field is truly a gift. In this class, I am taught the necessary and complex skills to pursue my future. As a class, we started out learning the most basic but most important part of being a police officer: proper English and writing skills. We then got into report writing, which is the biggest part of being a police officer. Over time, more complex and even physical skills were taught. These include handcuffing procedures, fingerprinting, penal law knowledge, patrolling techniques, and even self-defense. These are just a few of the major skills that we are taught at a young age. To take this class, you have to have an excellent mindset. Becoming a police officer, one can be in very dangerous and life-threatening situations. However, this is by far the definite line of work that I want to be in my future. The amount that the New York State Police inspire me at such a young age cannot be explained with words. Thinking about hopefully becoming a part of such an incredible police force gives me the mindset to stay focused and work hard. I am truly excited to see what my future holds.
Well, it seems like Zach likes the Popo Faux Show.
All right. Moving on, let's go to Yella's piece on the many falls of Ithaca.
A small town nestled to the corner of Cayuga Lake, surrounded by steep hills and cliffs of shale. Cliffs gouged into powerful works of natural art. Works of art called gorges. These gorges channel water from the surrounding countryside to the center, Cayuga Lake. Ithaca is entirely surrounded by breathtaking gorges, which bring in hordes of tourists and give Ithaca a truly unique community character. Most notably among these are Taganic Falls, Cascadilla Gorge, Ithaca Falls, and the famous Buttermilk Falls. Ithacans take these wonders of nature for granted, but how were they created? Where did they come from? And what will happen to them in the future?
I think they are wonderful. It's an iconic piece of landscape where people can hang out. Hiking there is wonderful. It's a great way to get really people out and active. Also, it was a big draw to the town itself back when this Ithaca was a major silent movie place. They were actually able to film a lot of the western scenes that had gorges and everything actually in Ithaca. So that was a great draw for the town as well. So overall, I think they're a great benefit. The only downside is the threat of possible death. They're quite aesthetically pleasing and good to look at, which is an overall just a positive. If you drive around Ithaca, you pass over a bridge and you look over and you see these great waterfalls, and it's one of those things that just adds a little plus to your day.
I believe a lot of people enjoy walking and hiking around them, and they're just another part of Ithaca that adds beauty. And I think it adds an environment where people can go and relax a lot more than some other towns in the area, and they can kind of either sit by the gorge and relax or go out hiking and just relax and have fun.
It all started 15,000 years ago when the glaciers, often over a mile high and covering much of what is now North America, started to retreat from the warming temperatures, dragging tons of dirt and rock with it, greedily gouging the earth as they pass by. These glaciers start to melt. It's causing billions of tons of water to flow through the newly made gorges, widening them. Time passes and the water starts to steadily flow through, slowly eating away at the rock, taking little microscopic bits off, making the gorges deeper and deeper. As the gorges deepen and penetrate beneath the water table, more and more water starts to run through them, increasing the rate at which the erosion process happens. This, coupled with the fact that winter also greatly weakens the rock in the area, when water seeps into the cracks in the stone, freezes, expands, and forces the rock open, is how gorges were created. These are the natural processes that have molded Ithaca to what it is now. The gorges will continue to seep into the earth, washing tons of rock and dirt into the lake. Not only are they wonders of science, they also continue to attract tourists and fuel Ithaca's economy. Having participated in every part of Ithaca's history, from long before its founding in 1790 to present day, these gorges are our very essence. They define us as Ithacans and fill us with an innate sense of pride.
Wow, those aerial shots sure are gorgeous. I was getting dizzy just watching them all. Now, where were we? Oh, right. Next, we look at the impact of one music student's ability to cope with the stresses of high school.
Hey, that sounds familiar. Wait, that's my piece.
Let's check it out.
Music creates a release from the world around us, an alternate means of expressing oneself through a symphony of sounds. There is something so calming to me about playing an instrument. It allows me a brief moment of respite from my normal stressful life. When you are playing, you are immune to the stresses of the world, because that interferes with producing a beautiful sound that you hear in your head. When picking an instrument, French horn was an easy choice. Its glorious tone, heavenly sound, and soaring beauty make it stand atop the world of musical expression. I first started playing French horn when I was 7 years old. It stopped after a couple months because it was just too heavy for me to hold at that point. But I started playing for real in 4th grade, and the French horn has been a constant part of my life ever since. My love of music truly blossomed in 8th grade when I joined the Junior Massachusetts Youth Wind Ensemble, run out of the New England Conservatory of Music. Playing in this ensemble pushed me to master music that I would have previously thought was well beyond my capabilities. Not only was the music demanding technically, but it also pushed me to gain a greater lyrical understanding of the music. This understanding led me to truly appreciate the power of the music I was playing. It made me realize that I never, ever wanted to stop playing. The year culminated with a stunning performance in Boston's Jordan Hall with a nearly hour-long program of fantastic music. As I grew up, my love of music expanded beyond French horn. A friend of mine introduced me to guitar, and I started to play around with it. I realized that I instantly loved it, and spent hours trying to teach myself various chord progressions and the basics to play any number of songs. I even started to take music lessons on guitar, but I discovered that I really just like to learn at my own pace. Although I am still a beginner, I enjoy my feeble attempts at playing guitar. Guitar is an instrument that is worlds away from French horn. One can very quickly get to a point that you can create musical accompaniment to a wide variety of songs, which is very different than the normal Mozart repertoire of French horn. In much the same way, I also taught myself to play piano. It was a way to learn how to read bass clef, and I learned in a similar manner that worked for me to play guitar. I took one of my favorite pieces, Music of the Night, from Phantom of the Opera, and measure by measure taught myself to play it. Still today, when people hear me play it, they assume that I can really play the piano, but I actually have never had a lesson in my life, and learning any new piece is still just the same slow process. In addition to playing musical instruments, I have always had an affinity for both classical music and Broadway musical theater, something that is not particularly common for 5-year-old kids. Going to New York to go to the theater has become a family tradition. So, for example, last summer we went to see Idina Menzel star alongside Anthony Rapp in the hit show If Then. In fact, it was my dad who first got me interested in classical music and Broadway musicals. He himself is a classical music fanatic, with stacks upon stacks of CDs of the breadth of the classical repertoire in his overflowing study. Beyond my dad's collections of CDs, I have taken a bit more modern approach to listening to music and get most of my music from YouTube. In particular, the Piano Guys, who creatively combine pop music with classical music in incredibly well-done videos posted on YouTube. I can honestly say that their music has sustained me through my many late-night hours hunched over my papers struggling to complete that last assignment. Their arrangements are incredibly well done by intertwining well-known pop music with centuries-old classics. Not only this, but each video has breathtaking imagery that exactly matches mood and movement the sound images being painted by the music. In particular, one piece, Moonlight, which can be found on repeat during my many late-night struggles, reworks 2 themes from different pieces by Ludwig van Beethoven, one from a piano sonata and the other from orchestral symphony, both intertwined now on electric cello to an entirely different effect. Every time that I hear it, I marvel at the ease with which these artists express themselves.
Throughout my life, music has been a large inspiration to me to not only finish my homework, but to give me a place to retreat to that's completely my own.
Amy,
What?
what do cows put on their iPods?
I don't know.
Music.
Anyways.
Oh, we're back.
Anyways, moving on. Next we look into the lives of the brave people who run into burning buildings to save the helpless.
Really? Who are these people?
Why, firefighters, of course. Mark Stillwell from 5th period did a piece on them. Let's take a look.
Ever since I was a little kid, I've had a strong exposure to the Enfield Volunteer Fire Company. Both my grandpa and my dad have been fire chiefs in Enfield and are both still active members. I was a kid when my dad was chief, so I spent a lot of time there. I remember one time when I was about 10 years old, and I went to the fire station with my dad, and when we were there, they had a fire call, so I went in the truck with him. I remember watching everything from inside the truck, and it was very inspiring to me, and I just remember that. When I started getting older, my dad started teaching me about things around the fire department, and when I turned 14, I joined.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you please tell me your name and your position in the fire department?
I'm Mark Stillwell, and I am a firefighter at the Enfield Fire Department.
So tell me, Mark, how old were you when you first started in the fire department?
I was 14 years old.
And what made you interested in joining the fire department?
Well, both my dad and my grandpa are in the Enfield Volunteer Fire Department, and my dad also works at the Ithaca Fire Department. I kind of grew up in the fire department, and when I was little, my dad was chief, so I was there a lot.
And what kinds of things do you do there?
Fight fires, rescue people out of cars that crashed, stuff like that.
And what other kinds of things does the fire department do outside of that?
But we do barbecues, blood drives, highway cleanups, a lot of community events. We host the Harvest Festival, and we send out calendars to the community.
And what kinds of things do you do when you're on a fire scene?
Well, there's all sorts of different positions. There's people that actually go inside and put out fires. There's people that stay outside the building and help out, like they grab tools and do things like get ladders, throw ladders. And there's people that drive the trucks and operate the trucks, that pump water. And then, of course, there's the chiefs that run the whole show.
And what is your favorite part?
I can't really say I have a favorite, but I like everything.
And when you pull up on the scene of a motor vehicle accident, what kinds of things do you do?
First, we assess the situation, a little bit of triage if there's multiple patients, figure out which car, if there's more than one, we need to work on first, which patients need the most care, and we go from there. There's different situations where we'll either need to extricate the victim out of the car. If they're already out, then we can usually pack them right up, send them in the ambulance, or if it's pretty bad, in a helicopter. And it's really different every time, depending on the situation, where you are, what kind of conditions, weather conditions, and stuff like that.
Are there a large group of volunteers in Enfield?
Yes, there's quite a few people in the fire department. Not all of them are firefighters, but pretty much every person plays a role. And as always, we're looking for more volunteers.
And do you have a favorite piece of apparatus?
Yes, I do, actually. It's a 1996 Freightliner. It's our second line tanker. I just like it because, for one, it's the same age as me. It's one of the few remaining trucks that I remember being there as a child. Most of the other trucks have already been retired and replaced. I like the cab on it. It's a very aggressive looking truck. Overall, I just like it the best.
And what do you have to do to be able to drive a fire truck?
You have to be, well, for the pickup trucks, you have to be 18 and have the EVOC course, which is Emergency Vehicle Operations. To drive the big fire trucks, you have to be 21 and have EVOC and pump ops.
And what do you hope to do in the future in the department?
Well, in the future, after I get out of school and college, I hope to become a line officer, one of the chiefs. And I really am already partly trained, but I want to further my training to be able to do anything possible on the fire scene.
Thank you, Mark. It was nice talking to you.
Firefighting has always been a huge inspiration in my life. I've spent a lot of time in the fire department. I hope that my career as a firefighter and my experiences as a firefighter take me very far in life. Firefighting is a thing that I enjoy and have a lot of fun doing. This was Mark Stillwell, signing off, WRED. Enjoy your day, people.
Wow, that piece was on fire.
And a great conclusion to today's show.
What a show it's been. We've seen everything from the great outdoors to the inner workings of the local fire department. Through this show, we've explored the various things in our community that inspire the students in our English digital media class. Sadly, Amy, it's that time again.
What time?
Well, it's time to set sail, of course.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's anchors away.
So keep making history, Ithaca. We'll see you next time.